All right, Christine, it's good to see you. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am doing fantastic, and thank you for joining me here today. I know this is actually a very, very big week for you. Are you excited?
Yes, very excited, and it is a very big week.
Yeah, it's a huge week. I clearly have had the opportunity to work with you throughout the years, just even in a partnership. You formerly being with us and us being to support your journey a good bit last year and throughout this training season. You were one of the people that I automatically thought of to get on this podcast when I started to really want to connect athlete to athlete with different people out there. And of course, I feel a little closer connected with you, being that we work together and everything. And to being able to follow your journey last year. I felt like I was on like a roller coaster, holding on
Me
for dear
too.
life. And like, I believe it. And we were here as a business just really rooting for you. And I specifically, wanted the best outcome possible. I remember watching you on the floor at this time of year last year at semifinals, particularly in the snatch event. And we'll kind of get to and talk about that a little bit. But where I wanted to kick this interview off is truly asking you last year, in as few words as possible, how would you describe where you ended up?
Oh man, in as few as words,
Yeah, just straight.
let's.
How did it make you feel?
It made me feel like it was something beyond my control. Honestly,
Mm,
like I felt like I had done everything that I could do, and there were so many little things that happened looking back. Like I know they kind of talk about, it was the closest like tenth of a second. There were actually like three different situations where that happened. It wasn't just one. So I kind of, it's like it was frustrating, but there were too many things that happened that kind of just made me almost have a piece of like it was something beyond my control, and there's reasons that I don't necessarily understand right now, but maybe will later. And yeah, so I would say that's how it made me feel.
yeah, and for anyone that might not understand or think about or know, really be in the know about the situation last year, is that you were at one of the most competitive semifinals out there on the female side of the field,
Yeah,
and it literally came down to what was the point differential
I
that
think
kept
it
you up?
was 2 points,
Yep.
but fourth and fifth were tied too.
Right. So
So
there's three spots right there, right within the 2 point
mhm,
window,
yeah,
and you were one spot out essentially,
yeah,
finishing sixth when they only took the top five to the CrossFit Games.
hmm
And like you mentioned, I think this is something that a lot of spectators don't always understand when it comes to the scoring. They're like, oh, it was that one thing that certainly kept her out, or the one thing that, oh, she just fell short of. Maybe she really needs to work on that one thing. And
yeah.
athletically, you, of course, have the understanding that it's like, man, three different instances. What are those instances that really stand out to you in your mind where it's like, oh, a small change here or a little bit of a different step there, and my weekend's different?
Um, I would say, well, actually, I haven't really told a lot of people this, but on Saturday I wasn't feeling very good
Okay.
of the weekend. So, and uh, I have just a very sensitive stomach and I think I have celiac disease. I can't have gluten or anything. And I had changed up my oatmeal that I ate that morning, and I just did not feel good that Saturday. And so that Gretel workout, my legs just filled up with lactic acid way too soon. And I think that was partially from just not feeling good that day. So that was like, I would have changed not changing what I ate. And then on the workout that was running wall balls and ring muscle ups last year, um, that one I was just like not in a good place mentally in that workout. And I think partially again, just like didn't feel good and was overheating and um, did not feel my best. But I also feel like I kind of let my mentally I was not in a good place, so I kind of let that take over when I should have been more mentally tough. Like it was so close in that workout. If I could have gotten just like a few more wall balls or gotten back to the runner, that would have been the difference. So it was mostly just that day two, like day one and day three were really good. I will say day one, looking back, I did not know how to ski erg. Like, I don't know if you've watched that, but I like was not reaching up high at all. So the way that I can ski now, I feel like I could have done better in that workout too. But I feel like last year it really was my first. I had done a couple individual events like way long ago, but it was like my first, like, okay, I'm trying to do this, trying to make it to the CrossFit Games as an individual. So with that, just like you're kind of feeling out where you're at amidst the field. And not that I wasn't confident, but you just don't really know where you're at, you know? So I feel like this year I know where I'm at, if that makes sense.
It makes a world of sense, and I know where you're at too, and I'm rooting for you, and I really believe that this is going to be an opportune year for you. So I think that you're probably in a great place. I know we talked a little bit before we kicked this off, and you said that you're feeling physically good, and if you're feeling physically good and mentally in a good spot, you're going to be dangerous out there on the floor. You mentioned about struggling with that wall ball runner workout with the ring muscle ups, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that was the longest test
Yeah.
from last year.
Yeah.
When you think about the layout of and structure of a workout like that, is that something that excites you, or is that a bit like, okay, if I had a flavor, that wouldn't be it?
Like long workouts.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've recently figured out something. It's not necessarily long workouts, because like a Murph type workout, I love that. Anything where it's like, you know, you're just like staying tough and grinding through this, I feel like I do really well with that. But it was actually, I think it was after quarterfinals, I kind of put it together, a longer time domain with a high heart rate type, like running or double unders, with a squatting movement and a pulling movement that gets. And it was like I looked back in like the workouts that, so like the run, high heart rate, wall ball was the squatting, and then it was a heavy wall ball, and then the ring muscle ups. And I think that combination for some reason just like jacks my heart rate up, and that's what I need to work on. And I can look back and think of the workouts that make me feel a certain way, and they all have that combination. So
Okay.
I'm excited that I figured that out. And I'm going to be doing a lot more workouts of that. But yeah, I had never put that together. I always thought, oh, it's just running, or oh, it's just double unders. But I think it's the combination.
Yeah, and I think that's an extremely important lesson. So if athletes are out here listening to this and they aspire to make it to the semifinals one day, it's important to look back in order to know what you're going to do to have success moving forward. And for you, looking back and understanding that that combination of movements or that particular stimulus created some type of limitation for you. How'd you go about attacking that this last season? Like what did that look like priority wise?
So I really didn't figure that out until after quarterfinals, like I said. So it's more just like I have that in my head now, because it's not like I can just like quick work on all of those workouts. So it's more like, okay, if a workout comes up like that, I know it's going to make me feel a certain way, and I'm going to have to be extra tough and just hang in there, because that is not going to be a wheelhouse workout for me. So at that point, or at this point, that's where my mental state is with if a workout like that were to come up. But this past year, I've been working a ton on just like running and doing things, you know, jumping up on the rings when my heart rate's super high, and just like testing that capacity of just like, you know, you can still do a ring muscle up if your heart rate is really high, and breathe through the ring muscle up. You don't have to wait until your heart rate is back down to jump up. So just kind of like testing that limit, and where, you know, where am I going to fail a legless rope climb if my heart rate is super high, or am I even going to fail it at all? So
Right.
yeah, just kind of testing that limit.
Yeah, and it's certainly something you have to test. I think a lot of athletes are very confused about that feeling, right? It feels foreign to us to be in a state of almost panic, where we have to talk ourselves down of, hey, I'm okay. And in fact, no matter how fatigued I am, I can do 5 ring muscle ups, or I can do 7 ring muscle ups, or whatever it is for your capacity. similar to a legless rope climb, and we will get an opportunity to see you guys out there doing that workout. That's a repeat from 2014, of course, this year in semifinals, where your heart rate's going to be high. Hopefully you have practiced a great approach. You're going to give a great jump, and you're going to be pulling up that thing. And you'll be running into a wall, though, not when your heart rate's too high, but when your hands and your arms and your lats feel as though, okay, we're not ready yet, right? Or we need to slow this tempo down for the run. And those are two very different feelings to be comfortable with as an athlete.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. But it is exciting. Like, I don't know. I've been reading this book called Peak Performance. Have you read that book?
I have not.
Oh, well, it just kind of talks about how, like, great athletes, or anyone that's successful with anything, like when they run into a challenge, instead of like running away from it because it feels uncomfortable, it's like they're curious about it and they lean into it. And that's something that, even with testing these workouts this past week, like when it starts to hurt really bad, it's like I have to switch that part of my brain to like, okay, let's be curious about this and lean into the uncomfortable and see how far we can get with it. Your body isn't giving up, so keep going.
I love that. And I use that term on a regular basis, lean in. And I think it's an important one that, it's so easy when we run into trouble. I mean, this goes outside of semifinals and the CrossFit Games and the CrossFit Open, right? Like adversity, we tend to want to shy away from, and it's like lean in and let's find out what our training has prepared us for. Let's see what we're truly made of. And I know something that I've yelled a couple times in the gym, I think this week and last week, to a couple of my athletes that are in preparation was, find a way in. It's so easy that when we're suffering to kind of like, oh, I'm gonna kind of find my own way out of this workout. Like, this is why I didn't hit this time, or this is why. You're already preparing, what's called a JIC, or a just in case excuse, right? For the reason you might not have success, but find a way in, find a reason to be great. Even if there's adversity right in front of you. And you've mentioned this several times: mentality, mindset, having the ability to persevere in regards to what you're really expressing. But my question here surrounding this is, for you last year on that semifinal floor, not everything went according to plan. And you had admitted that you were still trying to find where you were going to fall in this group of girls. Like, did you belong? Did you not? When was the moment on the floor that last year where you were like, I can get a spot here. Like, this is, I belong. When did you feel that?
Well, I would say, like, going into it, like, I've never gone into a competition. Oh, are you still there? Uh-oh.
We're good. Don't worry. If I disappear, it's just because we're letting you take the spotlight.
Okay. Sorry. So I definitely was like going into the competition, like, I want a spot, but after the first event, obviously, like, winning that event was a huge confidence boost, but I knew I was strong. I knew I was good at snatches. So there was a little bit in the back of my mind, like, oh, you won that event, but you still have 5 more events to go with a lot of fitness. And it really was after oh man, it's hard to say. After day 1, I was like, I know I can hang with these girls. And like you said, the semifinal was very stacked. So I knew girls that I was beating. It was like, okay, I belong here. And then day 2 was rough. And I knew going into day 3, I'm going to have to fight really hard if I have a chance here. But really, truly, it was at the end of the weekend, I think, that I was like, holy cow, like, first of all, this race was so tight. These girls are all like top 10 games athletes. And I'm right there with them, so it was kind of just like something that compounded over the weekend. And then after the weekend was done, was just kind of like, okay, I do belong.
Absolutely. And if I had to guess any moments, it was going to be that snatch event, like right out of the gate. I was like, okay, let's go. She's got this. Here we go. I was so pumped up to watch that. You executed so well. And I think and I could be mistaken, but that wasn't even a PR or personal best for you at all. Wasn't it just below potentially?
It was a tie for
Okay,
pair.
tie. All right. So we tied your personal best, but it was extremely impressive. And I know we're still hitting on last year, but I want to fast forward to now the last chance qualifier.
Oh man.
Um, so in my mind, right, you come off of this high here at the semifinals, and I forget exactly how many weeks it was to the last chance qualifier.
It was a while. I don't remember either,
Okay.
but it'd be like 6 or 8 weeks. It was like
Okay.
a while.
So
So you're
quite
like, I don't know if I'm training for the games right now or if it's my off season. Like that was an emotional roller coaster too.
Yeah, you're in tremendous limbo. And for anyone that's listening to this and doesn't really understand the format of the season, there's an opportunity for those that just miss out on the cusp of qualifying for the CrossFit Games at a semifinal to go on then to compete at an online qualifier and fight for one last qualifying spot, both male and female, in what's called the last chance qualifier. And Christine got an opportunity to participate in that last year. And where I was going with this, Christine, is that the mentality and mindset for me personally is that when I make it to a semifinal, I'm like drooling at the opportunity to be in front of a crowd, to be in an
Yeah.
arena, to
Yeah.
feel the atmosphere. And you go from that, then being in this hiatus for 6 to 8 weeks, roughly. Like, what am I training for? Am I getting ready for something? Could it be the CrossFit Games? And then you got to just throw down at your own gym. And hey, I
Yeah.
know you guys got a great vibe at 417 and it's probably an awesome supportive community, but nothing quite like being in person. So what was that transition like? And then of course, help us understand the experience of the last chance qualifier.
Yeah, so I definitely thrive in in-person competition. So like having someone next to me to race is very exciting. So it kind of felt like almost going back to the open. And even the workouts were almost open type workouts. Like the weights weren't super heavy. Like um yeah, there was only 4 workouts. So I mean, I was excited to have another chance and another opportunity, but it definitely was not as exciting as going to semifinals. Um, yeah, and it was really, really hot doing the last chance qualifier. Like it was, forget what. Oh, actually, you know what? It was right before 4th of July because I remember the last day it was 4th of July and we went out to the lake, and we had like 6 fans on me trying to get. I mean, it was so hot in the gym. So just like totally different atmosphere than being at semifinals. Um, I do think it is really cool to have something like that to
Mhm.
almost like let the athletes fight like tooth and nail for a spot. And that's exactly what happens. And yeah, but it was steep competition too because you got to think like the people in the last chance qualifier they were all 1 or 2 spots out from making it to the game. So it's not like at semifinals where I mean, everyone's a great athlete at semifinals, but you have some people that you're like, okay, I'm for sure going to beat them. You know, in the last chance qualifier, it's like everybody is almost a games level athlete or like could be at the CrossFit Games if something went a little bit more their way.
Absolutely. Yeah, they were all found themselves in similar situations to you, right? A mislift,
Right.
a miscue, a mispaced round here or there, whatever it might have been, one no rep perhaps.
Or a bad
Um,
day, didn't feel good that day,
that's it.
something like,
That's it.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's crazy too. And I know you mentioned this even with battling celiacs for you personally. And of course, it's something that we were aware of, even with what products we could send you and what you were able to have on a regular basis. For you training and knowing that you don't just show up in shape, and of course, like all the things have to line up. And that includes feeling well. How do you balance your diet and nutrition and being able to get in the calories that you need to and still be aware of your limitations there?
Um, I mean, I've been gluten free since I was 21, so like 9 years now. So I'm very, very educated and aware of what I can and can't eat. Um, I will say though, like as I've gotten older, and maybe it's just awareness. I think most of my life I've just had like a stomach ache. I don't know. And so just like realizing like certain things that do aggravate my stomach and becoming more educated on those things and aware of what my body needs. Um, I think this year has been really awesome getting to work with Ice Age meals, because it's like I know exactly what I'm eating and I know that the meals always agree with me. So being able to have something like that going into a competition weekend is huge. When I'm at home and I'm cooking for myself, it's like I always know what I'm getting. But a lot of times when I would travel or go to a competition, it's like you wind up eating out, or you go to a different grocery store and they don't have your oatmeal that you normally get or whatever. So I think that was a learning experience in itself, and just like helping me to really dial in what I can and can't eat, and just being more on top of that. But as far as like getting calories in, that's not really an issue.
I'm with. Hey, listen, I know how it is, and listen, most of us got into CrossFit because we like to eat anyway, so we're getting it
Yeah,
in. We're doing what
yeah,
we got to do.
yeah.
Um,
And honestly, I think CrossFit really like helped um, make me more aware of what my
mm,
body needed. Because, and I say this to people all the time, like, because people ask, when they're trying to get in shape, like, should I worry about my diet first or exercise first? And I always say, like, when I exercise, it makes me realize what I need to eat. Like, if I'm not exercising, I can't feel how dehydrated I am, because it affects your workout so much. So I always tell people, like, start exercising and you'll realize what your body needs.
100%. And I appreciate you sharing that because it takes planning, it takes processes to be successful. It takes a team, like you mentioned. Hey, shout out to Ice Age Meals, friend of the show. And with a team, you're relatively newly married to a
Yeah.
very handsome fella, and
Yeah.
I may or may not have a man crush on him from a distance. He's strong, brawny. He can shoot with great accuracy, many type of guns. Um, but how's married life, and how do you guys go about, honestly, just thinking about the balance structure within what encompasses your lives together, the gym, the training, the time together. How does that look like day to day?
It's really good. I'm very fortunate to be in a relationship where we both love each other, like each other, and support each other so much. So we own a gym together and run that. But he also works out with me, coaches other people. He is training for tactical games now, so he's kind of starting something new. But we do life very, very closely, and it really works really well for us.
I think that's so awesome, and it's refreshing to see. A lot of couples out there, they start to spend a little bit higher volume and hours together throughout the week, and all of a sudden, their interest
Yeah.
and admiration for one another tends to drop because they butt heads a little bit. So I love
Yeah.
to hear that you guys are being able to actually live life together. I think that's refreshing and obviously necessary with the structure of life that you play, and the roles that you play in one another's lives. Um,
Yeah.
how do, how do you deal with him coaching you and also being your husband?
So he was my coach before we were together. So after we got together, there was a period where he would start coaching me and I would get like attitude. And it would throw him off because I had never acted like that before. And I just had to kind of check myself and be like, he's not picking on me, he's my coach. Like, and so I've gotten way better at it. But I have to like switch my brain over to like he's my coach now. um and he wants to help me, he wants me to succeed. He's not just picking on me or telling me I'm not doing a good job, like, because sometimes when you view it through a relational lens, it can become emotional, and it's like you have to switch off that in your brain.
I get it. When you walk in and it's game time and you put on is it junk that you work with?
Yeah.
And you put on your junk headgear. It's like, okay, now I'm athlete. I'm not
Yeah.
wife currently. This is
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
It's your superwoman identity.
Yep. And then I would say on his end, we actually had a really good conversation after the Open this year. Um, just like I said something to him like, why aren't you screaming at me in the workout to go faster? And he's like, Christine, I don't know. I don't know how to act. Like, I don't know if you want me to do that. I don't know if you want me to be quiet. Like, I just want to serve you the best way possible, but I don't know what you want. And I'm like, I want to do this together. Like, that means so much to me. And since then, our coach athlete relationship has been so much better. Like, because there was just that conversation and communication of like, hey, I want to do this together. So every day it's like I write out my programming, he tweaks it and edits it for what I need. And then I also voiced to him, like, I need your feedback, because I felt like, so Jared is someone that he's always watching, but he might not say a lot. And when you're working out, though, you don't realize who's watching. So then every once in a while, he would pop in and like tell me to completely change something I was doing. And I'm an athlete that like, I need your trust for me to do anything that you tell me to do. So I would view that as like, you have been watching me for months and now you're going to come over here and completely change something that I've been doing. No, I'm not going to do that. And then I expressed that to him because he viewed that as like, you don't listen to anything I tell you to do. And he was like, Christine, I'm watching all the time. Like, I just don't say things all the time. But then it was me communicating, hey, I need you to give me affirmation or to let me know that you are watching so that we can build that trust. So
Yeah.
a lot of communication, but we're getting better.
And interestingly enough, it's a really important aspect of marriage and coaching, right? And I really do believe that there's some tremendous value and wisdom in his approach to watching as often as he can, but not always saying something, right? Because a lot of times, even athletes, I could have all the experience in the world, I could know everything, and even potentially how to present it. But ultimately, as an athlete, you've got to make the choice, right? You've got to make the choice. So sometimes you guys get an opportunity to learn through your own actions and own experiences, and we can sit back and let that happen. But I love it. I love to hear about the balance that you guys have got and how communication is, of course, at the forefront of all of it. We talked a lot about last year, Christine, and I want to know, with that experience last year and everything else leading into this year and your training and preparation, how did that affect you going into prep for this year, 2022, and what you're about to experience here starting on Friday?
Well, it definitely fired me up for this year. A part of my story that I haven't really shared that much about. So after the CrossFit Games this past year, I was on the demo team. I actually got super, super sick, like was in bed for 3 weeks, like didn't leave my house. And then after that would have like a period of 2 to 3 weeks feeling okay, start to train again, and then I would be sick for like another 1 to 2 weeks. And it just like kept happening. So I did not have much of an off season. Like, really did not. I mean, I would try to start training, and then as soon as I would try to start training, I'd get sick again. And I was having heart problems. Like, when I would start training again, my heart would hurt really bad, like a stabbing feeling in my heart. And so that was very worrisome, and like got an EKG done and stuff. That was okay, but I would still just have pain. And even leading into the open, the week before the open, or a couple weeks before the open, I got sick again. So I really didn't know if I was going to be able to compete this year. Like, it got to the point where I was like, I don't know if this is smart for me to try to train, because every time that I start to train, I get sick again. So somehow, though, once the open started, I haven't gotten sick since then. So I've been like training really, really hard since then. But really, my off season, to answer your question, like, I wanted to be super fired up, but I couldn't. Like, every time I would start to train, I would get sick. So this year for me is really like just a blessing. Like, I just feel so grateful that I get to compete, because I really didn't think that I was going to be able to. So every day I'm just very thankful that I'm not sick and that I get to compete. And that fires me up a ton.
And you should. And I think that's amazing. I think, here's what's ironic about that is that so many people, and I've experienced this myself, we come off of a high in preparation or even in performance, and then our season gets cut a little bit short. And what happens there is that we're so fired up that we drive ourselves off the deep end within like the first 3 months of an off season. And it's
Yeah.
because it's still warm. We're watching our friends throw down at the CrossFit Games, and you got to even experience demo team, which is a whole different level of experience, which I'd love to touch on another time. But it essentially just continues to spark your fire. And
Yeah.
when you're ultra competitive and you've almost tasted that success that you so badly desire, it can lead to, honestly, a bit of a dangerous place for an athlete when it comes to like overuse and or early season burnout, right? Like things that we see some of our peers go through. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that, even though I know it wasn't a ton of public knowledge. And I really believe that it can end up as a huge blessing in disguise for you to have forced you into a pacing this season and approach it with, of course,
Yeah.
it's the right intent.
Yeah, for sure. Cause like going into the open, I definitely was not my fittest. And so like each stage has kind of been like, okay, we're prepared for the open enough. We're prepared for quarterfinals enough. And now, I feel ready and prepared for semifinals. So that's just kind of been my approach, like really just taking one step at a time.
I love it. And I think there, again, it played out perfectly for you. All right. So we had a little technical difficulties, but we're back. And Christine, like I mentioned, we are literally going to get to watch you take the floor this weekend. I know you're super excited. It's an opportunity you've waited essentially a full year for. And now you get to be out in front of a crowd. And we have 6 workouts to choose from. You're going to get to, of course, throw down on all of them. Do you have a favorite for the weekend to come?
I am super excited about the legless rope climb workout, like super excited, and the complex. Um,
You want to just list
but
all 6 of
then
them then?
the other
Just
workout,
because you
I really am excited about all of them for different reasons. I would say like hyped up, I'm most excited for the legless rope climb one, just because I just feel like that's such a race and such an event of just like pure athleticism, and I love that. Um, but I'm also excited for the long workout because I just feel like that was kind of the workout that hung me up last year, and the stimulus is pretty similar to the one
Mhm.
last year. And I'm just excited to go into it without fear and just like attack it and do what I can do, and kind of overcome that bad mental state that I had in the workout last year.
I love that. I love that. And the simple fact that your answer is so spread out throughout the course of the weekend alludes to the fact that you're ready and that you've put in the work and that you are prepared. I hope you do so. Very excited. I can't wait to watch you go to throw down. And I truly believe that, you've earned the opportunity to have the expectations to align with making an appearance at the 2022 CrossFit Games. And I can't wait. Hopefully I get an opportunity to cover it, and hopefully you are present out there throwing down. But we'll be following along all weekend. You'll definitely be getting our support from over here at the Rise and Pod podcast. And thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure to get to sit down with you a little bit. I know this is a big week.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.